Good evening. Welcome to the December meeting of the Rutherford County Public Safety Committee. Hope everybody has had so far a nice holiday season and got out and was able to play some golf in between the raindrops, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the time. And I'll entertain a motion for the minutes of the last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I've read over the minutes and I move that they be approved.
Second.
We've got a motion to second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Pause report, Mr. Gregory. Excuse me.
For the month of November, we had 563 animals enter into the shelter. 28.3% came from county jurisdictions, 6.2% came from the city of Laverne, 49.7% came from the city of Murfreesboro, and 15.8% came from the town of Smyrna. We had 195 adoptions for the month, 184 animals that were euthanized, and 153 animals that were reclaimed by their owner. It gave us a total adoption reclaim percentage of 63.3%, and a euthanasia percentage of 33.5%. When you factor in animals that can be re-released, such as our wildlife and whatnot, we had a live release rate of 64.6%. Out of the animals that were reclaimed, 96 of those were from our surgery programs. We had 118 animals that remained in our care on November the 30th. We had 1,834 people visit the shelter and 1,752 log calls and voicemails for the month. 1,572 calls were received, 1,561 calls were completed, and we traveled 10,845 miles. Year to date, we've had 3,190 animals enter the shelter with an adoption reclaim percentage of 54.5 and a euthanasia rate of 41%. Our live release is 56.9% year to date. Our adoptions right now, we are averaging over 200 a month, which is putting us well ahead of where we were last year. So we're happy to see that and see that continue to go up.
Is that because the economy is better?
I think it boils down to a lot of things. I think the economy's better. We've got more animals that are going, through the different programs, through the rescue wagon, those type things. Plus, we also have our PR person that's really promoting and putting us out there at the forefront of folks' minds. So we're happy to see that average. We hope that continues. We've had 11,154 people visit the shelter since July the 1st, and 10,822 calls and voicemails. 8,177 calls received, and 8,150 complete. Putting us at almost 55,000 miles for the year. On our rabies and bite exposure report, you'll remember this goes from January 1st, not fiscal year. For November, we had 31 reported bites. One of those was tested. It came back as negative. We had 3 other exposures and we didn't test any of those. So that puts us at a total for the year of 364 bites, 25 tested, 1 positive. Other exposures are 94 reported cases, with 27 of those tested and 8 of those positive. And we haven't had a positive, thankfully, since August the 26th. And actually, we've only got a couple days left this month. We've not had a positive this month as well.
Any questions for Mr. Gregory?
Make a motion that we approve the report as presented. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Have a happy new year.
Thank you.
Mr. Nunley. Doing good?
Very good. You ready?
Ready.
We made 2,414 calls for the month of November. Average response time is 8.2 minutes. We had 48 DOAs and 17 of those for autopsy. We had a relatively good month in collections. We collected $675,000, $624, which is puts us on a yearly collection, a projected yearly collection of $6,934,248. The chart at the bottom of the page is, remember, the ones that are highlighted are the reserve ambulances. We have 2 new ambulances that we received a week or 2 ago. They'll have to be certified by the state. As soon as we get those certified and licensed, we'll put those on the road and take 2 of them off the road. We also have one that's in Shelbyville that is being, having a new truck put under the box and the box renovated, and it should be here, be back pretty quickly. It's already a certified ambulance, so we won't have to jump through all those hoops with it. We drove a total of 45,614 miles, and you can see the maintenance costs that are associated with each unit there. 812 calls were out of zone. The thing that concerns me about that is the number of calls is going up, response time is going up, out of zone calls are going up. So it's something that I feel comfortable saying that we've done everything that we can do to control those times. But I think that somewhere down the way we have to think about more ambulance stations
In critical areas especially.
How's the new one coming?
It's we're still waiting on the plan, the architect building plan. They were out there last week and surveyed and marked all the utilities. So as soon as they complete the plan, we'll get started, or at least we'll get started with the bid process. The next page is just the response times for individual ambulances. Page after that is calls that are segregated into district commissioner districts, as well as Nashville calls and transport team calls. Transport team made 51 transport calls and 97 911 calls. So it's pretty much acting as an additional ambulance as it is. And the matrix page kind of gives you a clearer picture of where the calls are happening, which zones they're happening in, and who's making those calls. And as you can see, it's just pretty much scattered. Whenever you have Salem Road and Burton Street and the MTSU zone bordering each other, basically, then all it takes is one little thing that causes everything to kind of fly off the pieces, and then the Manchester Road ambulance gets pulled in. And so they're making calls all over the place. The other thing that's gone up too is the number of calls that we take to Nashville. Generally, the calls that we take to Nashville are people who have medical issues, whose physicians are in Nashville, or they've been treated at one of the hospitals in Nashville. But the other thing that we take to Nashville quite frequently is trauma, particularly patients that have trauma to one or more systems, because that qualifies them for the trauma center. And so they go to Nashville either by us or by flight. And we fly a lot of people to Nashville these days. We have a helicopter station here in Rutherford County now. It pretty much stays busy.
Is that the one out by St. Thomas?
No, it's stationed at the Murfreesboro Airport.
They do. There is one at St. Thomas too, right?
I'm talking about,
But they got a pad out there.
they got a pad, but that's they don't have a helicopter.
Yeah.
But we do.
Oh.
We use that pad occasionally. Like for instance, it was one day last week we had an accident that was very close to the hospital. The patient was going to go to Nashville. It was severe trauma, and we just simply met the helicopter at the helipad. That way we didn't have to block off the interstate and all that stuff. Keep from.
Well, why don't a lot of these people, why do they go through the county EMS instead of, they can't use these other companies that can just transport people for dialysis and stuff like that? Or
Those are what we refer to as convalescent ambulance services. Most of them are licensed as emergency services, but the reason they're licensed as emergency services is because they have to be licensed in order to be able to collect Medicare and TennCare. But they don't want to make emergency calls, and they don't want to make emergency transfer calls either, because that's not where the money is. You know, if The only thing that's profitable about an ambulance service is a convalescent ambulance service where you can actually schedule calls. You don't have to be on call 24 hours a day and all those things. And then the rest of the letters there are just from people thanking us for, we had a disaster drill at the workhouse, and we got a letter from the workhouse administrator there. And have one there that was forwarded to us from TK that concerns appreciation for the people who went to North Carolina or South Carolina.
It was a pretty nice one from the man from Kim Stinson from South Carolina EMA, to us. You want to elaborate on that? It's on TV. Let them know what you're doing.
We sent 2 teams to South Carolina. We're mostly logistical people because we have a trailer that has cots in it and stoves and stuff like that. So that was our primary response there. Murfreesboro Fire Department responded too. We loaned them our boat, or one of our boats. They have one of their own. And they responded 2 teams, so they used our boat, but we didn't get actually involved in that. Yes, sir.
I got a question and a comment. First, I'll do the comment first. I talked to some of your guys about the South Carolina thing, and not only did they do a great job in terms of the response, but from all appearances, it was a great learning experience also, so that it's not a matter of if, but when we have the next serious issue here, they learned a lot of things from what they told me.
They told me the same thing.
And the next thing is a question. I was listening the other afternoon or midday or whatever, and it looked like the north end, all the north end ambulances were covered up, and they're actually pulling ambulances out of Murfreesboro to cover north. And how often is that happening?
More often than I would like to admit.
More often than I would like to. So.
As a matter of fact, I believe the instance that you're talking about, we even called administrative people in.
Yes, there were some. So
ambulances.
From what I'm hearing on the terms of radio traffic, it would appear that we need at least one more station to cover the north end, and we need 2 more ambulances to cover Murfreesboro area and so on, so that we don't have to pull some of those ambulances out from some of the more rural areas and so on. So if you want to bring us that.
I agree with you. We'll try to present you some sort of a 5-year plan. We've done that before, but they have a tendency to get off track. But we'll do it again, and we'll have that for you in the budget.
As fast as we're growing, as fast as they're building houses, and not only here in Murfreesboro, but in the north end also, almost every area, we need to get a jump on it.
And we've got to do something. We've got to do something especially about MTSU zone.
Yeah.
It's too large. It's the largest zone in the whole county. And we may be talking with Commissioner Piercy about putting an ambulance out that way somewhere. We got to do something to decrease that zone. Commissioner Reed, your zone is the same way. It's awful busy, a lot of houses going up there.
Was there any way that we can expand, put another bay in some of the existing?
We tried to build all of the stations with the idea that they could be expanded. As to whether economically that'd be the best way to do it, or do you need to separate it? We are going to put 2 ambulances in the building over on Burton Street.
Yeah.
So we'll have an extra ambulance there, and that'll help some, but that's not going to take care of the whole
To solve
problem.
the whole problem, no.
Is there any way you could work an ambulance service in with the fire departments?
I don't know. We could talk with Commissioner Farley about that. Chief Farley. We did have we have a good working relationship with them, and one of their fire stations is with our Manchester Road station. That's right. In fact, we built them together. So we could probably do something along that line.
Since the fire department is more first respond ready now? Is that a benefit for y'all?
It is a benefit to us because the big benefit for that is extrication. And then over the years, the extrication went from good to almost non-existent to the point to where we had to train all of our EMTs on the ambulances to do extrication just simply because sometimes they were the only ones that could do it. But we've worked very closely with the fire department. We've taught classes and we've worked together in teaching classes, and it's been a tremendous benefit because not only are they able to extricate patients for us, and when they do that, that frees us up to take care of the patient while they're doing that. But they're also there as extra manpower when they need it. And, yeah, to answer your question, Jess.
Okay. Anytime you want to talk to me about the ambulance service, I'm ready, because I think our district is ready. I think they are.
I don't think you have any problem there, because when you were talking about the extrications, I noticed I've already read some of the reports, but I noticed our county fire department, they had 32 just in November. Where they did that, and then motor vehicles were like over 700 that they went to. So yeah, they're out there already. So.
Oh yeah, they're there, and that that's wonderful, especially from our part, because it certainly helps us.
If there's no further questions for Mr. Nunley, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve this report.
Second.
And a motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I have one more thing.
Okay.
Ryan Gaither is here tonight.
You mean he didn't come just to be with us?
No, he didn't come this
I have an easy question, I think. Last year, we applied for an AFG grant for some electric cots, and it was unsuccessful. I want to try that again this year. Maybe lower the amount that we're asking for. It's around $125,000, so our part would be about $12,000. The stretchers are $15,000 to $18,000 a piece, so we would get 7 for less than the price for 1 if we're successful.
Is it a recurring grant or is it a one-time?
One time.
Okay.
So you didn't get anything last time?
And it was the first time that I was ever involved in it. We asked for 22, so we asked for a large amount of the piece of pie.
Yeah.
So somebody from Washington called me last week and said we were very close. So
Could have been
learned a few things.
How many do we have right now?
We have 7 of them, 6 or 7 of them now, and it's the future.
Well, I think those that were on the committee, I think all of us except Commissioner Turner were on here last year, and we vetted that real good, and you've sent information out to every commissioner about it, and it's a no-brainer to put in for it because of what it can save on our EMTs and our paramedics in this, on that. So you just want us to give your blessing?
Yes, sir.
Do I have anybody that wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we allow them to move forward. Whoops, did I cut you off, David? Sorry.
No.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Good. Second, and we'll leave it up to their discretion on how many they want to put in. Okay. Any further discussion?
Just keep us posted, yeah, because I'd be very interested to know if we're that close, and I'd love to know from them how close that means. You know,
And we don't get something like a grade back per
Yeah.
se, but you can ask for them to respond. And he called me last week and said we were very close. He felt like if we lowered the number and did a couple of different things in the grant, that we'd have good a shot as anybody.
Good.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So all in favor of the motion, no second, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Get better luck this year.
Thank you.
Okay, who's this? I'm gonna make the last one. That must be Chief Farley, since I see him standing up, right? Or Commissioner.
I got Commissioner.
Well, it's the motion or promotion there. For the last month, we had a total of 38 138 calls for the county fire department, and they're broken down by description of what they were and how many of those we had. Year to date, from January the 1st until the 23rd of December, we've had a total of 1,622 calls. This same time last year, we had 1,125 calls, so close to 500 calls difference. Just this month, we had 238 MVAs with injuries, 151 with no injuries, and we actually did 22 extrications.
No snow?
Pardon?
No snow?
No snow. And then the next report is just a rundown of the total MVA accidents in the county. We had a total of 71 MVA calls. Our average response time is 8.6 minutes. Of course, the yellow signifies where Rescue 1 or Rescue 6 responded out of zone because of unstaffed rescue truck. We didn't get the grant last year for the staffing, but if you remember, the mayor put 4 people in our budget to cover Walter Hill. Once we received notification that we did not receive the grant, we posted those jobs and hired 4 people. So we have a staffing out at Walter Hill now from 7 to 5:30 every day. It's 10.5 hours for 5 days a week, so it's staffed Monday through Friday. One of the good things about that, on the 18th, we had a MVA with entrapment on Jefferson Pike and Lebanon Highway right at the crossroads. And my guys were on the scene, had the patient extricated and ready and waiting for EMS when they arrived on the scene. There was a 70-year-old lady that broke her hip, and so I mean that was just exceptional. I was really tickled about that. Just kind of give you a heads up, I will be requesting 8 more positions next year to fill that station 24/7. That'll give us 2 full-time stations on opposite ends of the county. It would give us the capability to be anywhere within 10 minutes or so. Just like Mr. Nunley was saying a while ago, we also, during medical first responder, we've responded to Barlow Lane for a respiratory attack, Brownsmore Road for a heart attack, so we're there within minutes providing patient care. Now that's not to say we take the place of EMS, but we're there, you know, doing a size up, and pretty much it saves time. And when the EMS gets there, we have vital signs and kind of what's going on. So, and also we frequently drive the ambulance in for the paramedics. That frees them up to have 2 people in the back working on. So, like Mr. Nunley said, we work very closely with the EMS on these calls, and it's a great benefit. But you know, like Commissioner Gurley said, a county our size, we really need those two full-time stations, because these calls you see highlighted in yellow will, if we had a full-time station, would go away. Basically, what we're doing is we're responding from the south end, Fortress Boulevard or Barfield, all the way out in the Las Casas, Walter Hill area. That's a 20 to 30 minute response time. And if my family member is trapped in a vehicle, I want somebody there within 8 minutes to start that process, to have them free from that vehicle by the time the EMS gets there. So that's just kind of what my thinking is for the upcoming next year as we start our budgeting process. But we have a total of 71 MVAs. As you see down there, quite a few entrapments, a lot of rollovers. Some we did live flight out.
What's the chief? I'm assuming you've done some type of cost analysis on these canceled calls, or if we haven't, are we planning to? I'd be curious to know how much cost is involved when you have a unit that rolls out and all of a sudden it's canceled.
Well, basically, what a lot of that is you have fire alarms.
Yeah.
And they'll dispatch you for a fire alarm at a certain location, and we, a lot of times before we ever leave the hall or we get down the road just a piece, they'll call back and say the alarm company has called and canceled, so you can return to station.
I think so. I think Commissioner Gurley brought that up last month, right?
Yeah, that's goes along with the same thing with the sheriff's department's dealing with.
Yeah.
Be it law enforcement, or burglary calls, or fire alarms. These people who have alarm systems that constantly malfunction. I think, seriously, I think the county's gonna have to start looking at recouping some of that cost if you cannot keep your.
I know the city charges a fee after so many calls.
Yeah.
Murfreesboro, I think, charges a fee. I know Metro has been charging a fee for 30 or 40 years. You know, they give you a couple of times, and then after that, because a lot of these are repetitive.
Yeah.
And
Captain Spence has been working on that. He's talked to several different alarm companies, seeing what they're doing, and I think he's got some information on that.
Well, on commercial buildings, we had one here recently, we made about 5 false alarms too. And so I called dispatch today and I told my guys, when the key holder gets there, tell them that it actually went out yesterday. I said, tell them to call the alarm company, put it on test, have somebody out there in the morning to work on it.
Yeah, that's not acceptable.
Because-
I just, to Commissioner Gurley's point, I don't know how you, not you, but that's allowed to continue, especially when you know there's a persistent problem with a few or multiple
Well,
offenders.
about the-
I don't
Third
get that.
time, I'll tell them, look, you need to put this system on test.
Yeah.
Take it out of line and have somebody here the very
Okay,
next morning work
good,
on
yeah,
it.
because that's,
Because we can't afford to
right.
be making calls like that.
That's what I don't like, is
We
you're
are
taking away
risking
resources.
deputies and firefighters' lives, and in some cases EMS personnel's lives to service something that someone can do something
Yeah,
about.
right.
And that's just not right.
I
We're
take
gonna-
it you some, you
We're
have
gonna
some
get on that here,
information.
yes, we've got some information, actually, if the chief can stay back after when we go up, we've got some information hit on that.
The next sheet is, of course, a countywide analysis showing each volunteer fire department combined with our call volume. It shows each department's call volume, what they respond to, broken down by description. It shows their training hours and also their water usage, which is what we turn into CUD every month to let them know what a lot of their water loss is going to. We had a total of 2,597 calls this year. I looked for that. Of course, we've got about 3 or 4 days, but we'll come close to 3,000 calls this year before that's over with. Commissioner Turner just kind of give you an insight since we started the county fire department. In 2010, countywide, we were running about 1,200 to 1,300 calls a year. So you can see we've more than doubled.
Yeah.
Of course, our population has continued to grow, but we've had, actually this year, as Commissioner Reed spoke about, we've responded to 716 MVAs. 32 of those are with extrication, and of course, 90% of those are with injuries. And of course, when we get there, we are extra hands as first responders and EMTs assisting EMS in those. But like he said, the biggest thing is the extrication in this county has gone from virtually nothing to we got it divided up in 4 zones, and there's a lot of training goes on in that, and everybody who's involved keeps up those. It's about 40 hours of continuous training every year, so it's improved. I would say 100%. The last page.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
before you leave that, in fact, the reason I had those figures, I pulled that sheet today when I was going through your report. And I just wanted to mention that, you know, just as you've been saying and what we've heard here tonight, this shows the importance of the need for the fire services we have in this county. When you look at 109 total structural fires this year, that's a lot of fires when you think about it. And you look, there's Lascassas responded to 12. Eagleville had 5, Amble had 15, and then you look at just brush fires, 70 acres in this county were consumed this year, and what we're talking about there. So when we look at these figures right here, I mean, they're not just figures. This is actual man hours, this is actual property loss, this is actual things involved. So this tells us numbers and the need for what we're doing here.
The 109 also probably represents millions of dollars in loss of property. That's, of course, that reemphasizes what I'm saying about the need for that second station.
The importance of it, yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, the problem is we're fortunate, and I thank the mayor and I thank the commission for putting those 4 people out there at Walls Hill this year, but but also the thing about it is the calls don't stop after 5:30. They really don't. So, I mean, there's a strong need for that second
It's
station.
24 hours. And then when you look at this number right here, training hours, we just don't have firemen out there that just all of a sudden run out there and jump on a truck and pull up there and take a hose and squirt some water. 4,000 hours of training that's been done with what we've got out there. That, you know, when you think about that much time spent learning what they have to do, that's a lot of time. And I think as a commission right here, we appreciate that, and I hope the people of Rutherford County appreciate that when we start talking about what we have to do to keep this up.
Volunteers do a tremendous job, but they just, you know, it's a very time-consuming time commitment. But also realize on those 109 structure fires, the paid guys in that Barfield Station respond to every one of those to back up the volunteers and give them assistance. And if we had that second station at night, that would it would keep. I mean, there's a lot of times daytime it would only be a select few, but at least for those, I've got 18 people now in the daytime. So I just want to kind of put that in your mind, so when I do come for you, it's not a shock, because there is great need there. The last page, of course, is some of the structures that have been damaged by fire that will be turned into the county codes department that will have to get a permit for remodeling, restructure, or rebuilding. And that's pretty much completes my report. Any questions?
Going back to your 4 men at Walter Hill, you said they work 5 days a week, 10 and a half hours a day. Was your budget enough to assume the overtime that's created?
Well, I've got a little bit of money in overtime, but really it's not overtime, because FSLA, the federal laws, is you can work a firefighter 53 hours a week. If you take the guys who are on 24 hours, you take 24. A lot of times they work 3 hours and three shifts in that week, so it's 53 hours. So it averages out to about 212 hours per month. As long as they don't work over that 212 hours, then it's not overtime. The good thing about our guys at Walter Hill, though, I've got to give them some comp time, because last Thursday they went in at 7 o'clock that morning. Of course, we had the tornadoes come in, and they stayed all night long. They wasn't worried about getting paid overtime, but they stayed, and so we're going to give them comp time for that. But that's how dedicated these guys are. They knew the storms were coming in. You know, the tornadoes. There've been a lot of tornadoes that touched down. They knew there was a possibility of, being destruction in Rutherford County, and they weren't going to go home. And of course, so I told them I'd compensate them by giving them comp time on down the road. So they are very committed and very dedicated. And of course, now when I say that, let me also emphasize, a lot of the volunteer guys had their stations manned too. Las Casas, Alville, Kittrell, whenever this happens, they all come in at night and they man their stations so they're ready to roll. So I don't want to give you the impression it's all us, because the volunteers are very much doing their part too.
Further questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed?
I do have a request, as Brian Gaither spoke, at the AFG, the Assistant to Firefighters Grant is opening up, and we want to apply for 21 SCBAs. And what these are, they're air packs, what the firefighters wear inside of a structure to protect their respiratory system. And the ones we have now are out of date and they cannot be used. So we want to apply for 21 SCBAs for a cost of $136,500. The county's part of that will be $13,600 to pay. That will cost for the 10% match. And I'd like to ask for permission to apply for this grant, and also, if you would, go ahead and approve it. If we do get it, go ahead and approve it, so we can go ahead and get that ball rolling if we do get the grant.
Didn't we get some from, we got some from
I
Christy
applied.
Houston a while back, right?
No, sir, they bought a rescue truck
Okay.
back in 2010.
But didn't we get some from somebody?
I applied for a grant last year countywide, and we got
That was
turned
the
down.
first time?
Now, by us applying for this, it does allow volunteers to also apply. So this won't interfere with what they may try to do.
How long do these last?
15 years. When the county bought the 1999 fire apparatus in the 2000, there was 4 or 6 on the first one, and I think 9 on the second one, and no, it was 6 on the second one. So they had a total of 10. Those have all gone out of date. OSHA requires that as long as they can be retested every 5 years, but unless they're still bottles, after 15 years they have to be done away with. So more bottles will have to be bought, but now of course these bottles will be going up to 45-minute bottles, so it gives us more capabilities.
And what'd you say the total cost of those was?
The total cost would be $136,500, and the county match would be $13,600 or $13,650 to be
It's
exact.
roughly 10%
Yeah.
match. Y'all heard the request. Something that's needed.
Well, I'll make a motion to allow the fire department with Chief Farley to apply for the grant for air bottles, I believe it was.
When it's air packs, it's
Air
the whole,
packs.
the
Mask.
air pack and the bottle too.
Okay, and to, if the grant comes through, to allow him to go ahead
And accept it.
and accept it, but also to bring it back to us again for another review. So,
Second.
We need signatures on that, right? If we do get.
money involved, yes.
Well, if we get the grant, then what we've done in the past, we just bring it back and y'all approve it,
Right.
accept it. So the mayor just asked me when I present this tonight to ask y'all to go ahead and approve. If we do get the grant, just go ahead and approve it in advance. We can go ahead and accept it.
Right. It would go back through budget anyway.
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring it for. I'll bring it for you. Honestly, we got it.
Yeah.
And we received it, and then the budget will have to take that money.
Right.
I'll second the motion.
Sorry,
Oh, we did. Sorry, Chin. Didn't mean to steal your thunder.
You can third it.
I can third it, I guess, y'all.
It can be acclamation.
They can, okay. All in favor of the motion to buy the air pack signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Mr. Kevin.
How you doing? You have my report in front of you. Just want to talk about just a few of the highlights under preparedness. During the month, we had a lot going on as usual. A lot more training. We're training with the sheriff's office on personnel who are operating the mobile command. Remember, we moved that over to them. We've been training about 15 of their folks on that. We had a couple of sessions of that. We also, one thing, right before this meeting happened, right after this meeting last month, I attended a meeting up at TEMA concerning the reimbursements for the South Carolina response. One thing we did learn was and I've already told the EMS director as well as the fire chief and the fire chief at Murfreesboro, is that not everything's going to get reimbursed. They're not going to reimburse backfill. Basically, whenever they send personnel from here, they're pulling people out of shift. So they got to backfill that shift, and that creates sometimes overtime. Does create overtime, not sometimes. And that's a pretty hefty cost, especially when these folks were gone for a week at a time. So apparently, when they set up the EMAC, the compact between Tennessee and South Carolina to provide the support, they agreed to that South Carolina would not have to pay for the backfill. Unfortunately, TEMA didn't let us know that until December, and this happened months ago. So it's kind of a problem. It's going to cost the county to go over there. Now, I agree with Mr. Gurley. There's a huge training benefit in sending people anyway. We should never not send folks. But what I feel like is we weren't given the information to go to y'all as well as the mayor and each one of these directors with the information needed to make an informed decision. Yeah, you need to understand the cost before you do things. And because of, for whatever reason, TEMA didn't pass that information down to us, we didn't allow those agencies to make an informed decision. And I feel like it's going to have a cooling effect on any future out-of-state responses. So I just didn't want y'all, the reason I'm telling y'all that is because I think the last time we spoke to y'all about this, we left you impression that all county costs were gonna get reimbursed, and they're not. And we should have been told that on the front end. My office should have been informed by FEMA. And I have complained to them. There is an after-action report floating around out there that they still have not released back to us. But just to let y'all know, I've already discussed it with the mayor, and just so I make sure that I'm not telling y'all fib, okay?
On this, who made the final decision that we send people down there?
The decision.
Is that us? Somebody?
Yes, they send it out saying, hey, they make a compact with the state that wants the help. And they actually line out the rules of engagement with that. This is what we're gonna pay for, this is not what we're gonna pay for. And Tennessee sends it out to all the different counties and saying, okay, if you have, in this case, they wanted swift water teams. We need them to go over there. And you're basically agreeing to that. My problem with this in this whole situation is, as the EMA director, I didn't receive that information up front about what the rules of engagement were. I call them rules of engagement, that's a leftover from my former life, okay? The financial rules of engagement, I should say. But we need to know that. Now, is that gonna change our response? I don't think so. We're not that type of person. But y'all need to know when helping somebody else is gonna cost us money.
Yeah. We got some of that back in 2010. Remember, so we got elected. But is that something, Deputy Mayor, that maybe you need to take to the mayor?
I discussed it with the mayor, and
well, I'm thinking
yeah.
to take it further. Should we send a letter from the county to team itself through the mayor's office to our representatives in Nashville?
I think it's gonna have to go beyond TEMA. TEMA made a bad decision. TEMA did not. TEMA somewhat, and from what I know about the situation, forfeited their responsibility in terms, they turned it over to another organization to organize the response and did not keep a good handle on it. And that is something that should not be. And so therefore, we need to complain loud to our representatives.
Now, don't get me wrong, the response of the guys doing the actual work on the ground, the people you sent as a county, and Murfreesboro City perform magnificently. They're the greatest, and that's what always works out. Is the problems usually ain't with the guys doing the kicking in the doors and making things happen. It's the problem is usually further up the chain.
What I'm getting at is I think I agree with Joe on that, and that's what I was getting at. It needs to go past TEMA, and I think we get enough coming from Nashville downhill that costs us, it seems, especially in the area of education and everything, but that's regardless of this. And this was a breakdown in their communication up there, and it needs to go further than just as directive of TEMA, because, well, all you gotta do is look around the country, and we're having more and more of these, quote, disasters, it seems like now, than probably in the last 5 years, twice as many as we had in the 10 years previous.
We're not the only county in this situation. It gets back to kind of one of those things of the unfunded mandates. We want you to do something, but
Well, that's what I think, that if you'll follow up with the mayor, and let her represent, they don't do very much for us up there in Nashville, so it's maybe something they can look into and come up with some answers. Well, they do stuff for us, they give us unfunded mandates.
in this case, it wasn't exactly a mandate.
No, not this one.
It was appealing to our
But
goodness.
there's information we needed
Yes.
to make an informed decision, and we didn't receive it until well past the deployment. Matter of fact, I think it was around November when I received it, so.
Well, let me ask you, would that have changed our response?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's all.
But
It would have been nice to know.
up front,
That you're not gonna be able to get reimbursed for backfill, which is one of your larger costs on something like this.
Right, but, we are the volunteer state.
Yeah.
And I just want to say personally, thank you to all the guys that went.
They made things happen. You've got some really great heroes working for you that you never get to meet, I don't think.
And the guys that backfilled for them,
Those guys are great. That's your chief, that's EMS, that's your SORT team leader. Those guys, they make it happen. They really are. Also on the report that didn't quite make it on here, We did partially activate the EOC on the 23rd, last Wednesday, due to the storms in the area, and we also had people in on, one of my member of my staff on the 24th and 25th to monitor the following storms and take any damage reports. We didn't receive any major damage that was reported to me. There was, of course, the usuals. There was an occasional tree that was in the street that had to be removed. I think the Arby's sign on Old Fort Parkway got blown down, but nothing near what we were anticipating. So we dodged another one. Just let you know that. Some upcoming events: Homeland Security District 5, which we're part of, response committee meeting, as well as the EMS committee meeting for Homeland Security is next month. That PIO group, that's our Rutherford County PIO group. That's your public information officers. What we like to do is get all the public information officers from all the different agencies, response agencies, not just county, City of Murfreesboro's fire, and as well as Laverne and Smyrna, and also PD if at all possible. Sheriff's Office PIO as well. It plays a big role in that. Get together and make sure they get together on a regular basis, in this case quarterly, to make sure they have their procedures down and make sure they all know each other, because they need to work together, and they do when a big event happens, and make sure we're getting one message out instead of multiple ones. So that's coming up next month as well. We had 5 responses. One of them was on Thanksgiving Day. We had a load of candy catch fire at mile marker 97. You'll see that one in there. But basically it came down to 3 spills, one fire, which I spoke about, and one multiple vehicle accident that we responded to. Subject to your questions, that concludes my report.
Good picture of that tractor trailer.
I think that's not, you notice the cab's not there. That's not because it was towed away. It was burned down by the time I got there. So. And the fire department was out there till well after dark. They started about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They were out there dealing with that.
I'm not sure I knew that tractor trailer wreck was from drag racers. On that,
yes,
that was the center.
Yeah, that was the one where they immediately were looking for the 2 drag racers that caused that accident. The truck trailer really didn't cause it.
Right.
It was the 2 knuckleheads out there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the report as presented.
A motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second, any further questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, sir. Have a happy New Year.
You too.
Ms. Stu.
Good evening.
How are you?
As usual, you have our previous month's report in front of you. A couple things of interest on our activity report. Our population was up a little bit for the month of November, and the state of Tennessee is behind a little bit on their payments. We're holding their feet to the fire. They're kind of getting in the habit of doing that, but when we complain loud enough, they'll go ahead and send that check to us. So we're waiting on a large check from the state, but we know that we will eventually get it.
How far behind are they?
2 months worth. We're not taking any of their kids right now until they get caught up.
It's interesting in light of what we were just told that there's another example of not getting that on a fairly timely. Is that pretty consistent with that behavior?
Well, in years gone by, we had a problem getting money from the state, and then they got a new computer software system that seemed to correct those problems. And now it seems like they'll get like 2 months behind, then they'll pay a large check, 2 months behind, pay a large check. So it's becoming a pattern.
That we're not comfortable with. It's just,
well, I mean, it just shouldn't be a situation where you have to call and say,
yeah, that's kind of
please
what I mean.
pay
It's,
us.
if you've got to call someone on doing what's right when they owe you money, that's indicative of a broken system. But that's not for tonight.
I think if we have more children in classrooms than we're allowed to have from the state, that
Right,
they're sure
yeah.
gonna come down on
That's
the money.
kind of where I was
they're
going. If
finding
the
us.
shoe was on the other foot, I don't think they'd be as kind about the 2 months, but, keep prodding at them.
I'll answer any questions on that page if you have them. Second page is our sexually transmitted disease statistics. We are low this month, and that's good. Only 5% positivity rate. Third page is going to be all of the various programming that we do in the facility, and we're keeping the kids busy while they're with us. The last regular page of the report is what we call a rap sheet. Tells which departments are bringing in kids for what charges. Sheriff's Department is still bringing us the most business, and you can see what charges are coming through the facility.
Any questions on the report? It's getting a rough one to see that. Where they're
I'm
coming
trying to
from.
keep it on one page. I know that y'all can expand with your, so, but I can go to two if need be.
If it does keep on, it's easier because you got everything at the bottom and then compare. If I read this where it says attempted murder on that, and you go over, and it says, and those are counties or jurisdictions up the top, some of them are out of county agent. There were 6 attempted murders that came here from Gibson County this year?
It may be not necessarily 6 individuals, perhaps 2 individuals with 3 charges.
Oh, okay. The only, okay. Through with the report, I'll entertain a motion.
So move. Second.
We got a motion, we have a second. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we have a budget request.
I actually have 2. I don't know if both of them are there with you. The smaller one will be the easiest to start with, the one for $4,000. Okay. We have, this is our overtime line item, and this is not new money. I'd like to move $4,000 from my attendance line item into our overtime line item. And that's just basically, we have had several people leave that we've had to pay out their time on, and it has overdrawn that account, so I want to get that account caught up to even, and then it also gives just a little bit extra in there in case we have anybody else in the same situation.
Maybe we ought to take these separate.
Yeah.
If, so,
Make a motion to approve the amendment as presented.
have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Second. Call the roll, please. Becky?
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, on this second amendment request, this is not money from one account to another. This is me requesting $36,000 from unassigned fund balance. I currently have multiple employees that are out on various leaves. I've got a total of 5 sergeants. 2 of them are currently out on leave. And I also have another corporal who's out on an intermittent FMLA. And I have several positions that are opening. One of my employees is going to actually, her leave is going to turn into a retirement. Her leave will get her through until her retirement date. That retirement is next year in the spring, and then I have another employee who's not due back until May. Usually the way that we handle situations like this is we wait until that employee is completely paid out before we fill that position. And that's the way we all have always done it. This is the first time I've had to ask for something like this, based on how many employees, especially in supervision, that I have currently out on these different leaves, and my open positions. I am asking with the most sincerity that I can share that we be allowed to, for this particular situation, go ahead and fill that open sergeant position now instead of waiting until May. What we're having is a vicious cycle of people are picking up extra shifts, they're getting sick, they're having to take off. I'm constantly trying to backfill positions to keep the facility staffed at a comfortable level, and I don't think that we can continue to do that until May.
Do you have money in the budget for any part-time positions that are unfilled?
I have part-time money, and 2 of my open positions are my part-time employees. Because of one of these leaves, I actually have temporarily promoted 2 separate people to upfill, so to speak, and I'm running out of people to work with.
My question is not about the need for the position per se, but why is the request not coming out of unused money, part-time money, or instead of coming out of unassigned fund balances?
I've spoken to the Human Resources Department. I've spoken with Finance, and there may be enough money in my budget to cover part of this later in the year, but we don't know, and we want to go ahead and since it's too early to determine that, we would like to go ahead and do this now, and then anything that's left obviously always goes back. I do want just to remind the department that yearly our revenue for this department, it doesn't cover our budget, but we do bring approximately $440,000 back into the budget every year that helps take care of some of this.
I realize that, but I still think it's more appropriate to ask to do some, and what you want to do is that's within your right to manage your department, but bring it to us out of monies that are already appropriated, and then if we don't have money later on in the year, then we'll deal with unassigned fund balances.
The only line item that I have, the amount of money that's necessary, is going to be our food line item, and if our population continues at the rate that it is, I'm probably going to have to come and ask for money in that line item as well.
We've had that from the Sheriff's Department before, so that's to be expected. So I'll leave it to everybody else to ask questions.
The FMLA on both those, the one that's going to retire and the one's going to leave in May, or is
No, I've got one of my sergeants is on an administrative leave that she cannot return until May. Okay. I have an additional sergeant who's currently on FMLA, who that FMLA will get her to her retirement date. So that's 2 sergeants.
Okay.
Thirdly, I have a...
Well, let me just stop it on that FMLA, and it's been approved through a doctor and all that
Yes.
stuff, and she gets that long.
Right.
Okay. And the one administrative leave?
Yes.
Well, that's not disciplinary, and that's what I would.
It has run through the county attorney's office, and that's probably as much as I'm comfortable talking about tonight.
That person's still getting paid then?
No, they're
Oh.
not getting paid. Their position is held until May, and I have someone temporarily in that position.
Well, then I'm gonna ask, how come that person then is on administrative leave? Their salary's got to be in your attendance line item or wherever it is. Well, why can't
Because-
that be used?
Because I've got a existing employee temporarily in that position, which
Okay.
leaves their original position open, and I have temporarily promoted another employee into that position, and so on down the line until now I have openings at the bottom of the totem pole.
Okay, so this position here that you're requesting is the one for the person that's gonna retire when
Yes.
FMLA? Okay.
Did you not see some of this coming earlier?
I don't know how I could have known that I had an employee who was going to go out on a Family Medical Leave Act ahead of time, or that I could have known that I had so many that were going to go out on a Family Medical Leave Act. The employee who is eligible to retire intended to work past her retirement, but her FMLA situation didn't allow that to happen.
The way it's set up, you've got vacation time or sick leave. You can use it in a case like this if you get the approval for the sick leave to be used, because if the sick leave isn't used, then you get a month, for every 20 days of sick leave, you get a month added on to your retirement, how long you worked here, which if you figure out, that ain't gonna be as much as the pay would be. But they have, if that's been through and they have, you know,
Right now
it's
today,
legal.
40% of my sergeants are not at work. I don't know any other department that could manage with 40% of their sergeants not being on the job, as well as we currently have.
But you know, in about 2 weeks, you're gonna hear this again, or a week and a half. I mean, you know.
I
for the
I
next
understand,
time.
but
So,
we have
well,
to
that's why we're
we have to do
going through-
something.
yeah,
We've got to
we're
do
going through
something.
it with, too, because we're hoping to find another solution. But you can see just what you're saying from the attendance line item over there, that was only 5 months, and it's running right about what it should be. Okay, well, you've heard the request. I'll entertain a motion. One way or the other.
I'll make a motion to deny this request as received and let it be brought back to us coming out of already appropriated monies some other at our next meeting.
You've heard the motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We got a second. Okay. Further discussion? Call the roll. This is a vote.
Wait a minute. Is this an immediate problem, or is this a problem you're seeing in the near future?
It's an immediate problem that we've already been dealing with for some time, and we were limping along until the retiring employee had their FMLA situation come up. Once that hit, then I realized that we weren't, the limping was, we were going to stop limping and start, you know, dragging our bodies along. So that's why I have now come. These other ones have been going on, but it was the employee that had the unexpected FMLA come up that kind kind of broke the camel's back. And I can come back next month with the same amount of money coming out of our food line item, but I mean, and I do understand the process and how it works, but we had already figured that food was going to run short to begin with. So I guess it's whether you want to do it now or you want to do it later. And I do understand the process. So and I will happily do what the committee's will is.
Okay. So what we have is a yes vote is a motion to deny the budget request. A no vote is to turn the motion down. Okay? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
No.
Commissioner Schaefer.
No. I didn't think it was gonna go that way. Okay. All right, so next month, we'll be back with that one.
So we go to budget and finance with this amendment.
I don't think so, because it didn't make it through here.
Come to public safety next month with it coming out of, okay.
Well, it gives us also a month here to sit on it, and, you know, it's gonna be, we've been thinking about
Another
it.
month for my employees to get more overtime and get sicker and continue to pass it around the building. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, well, next, we have the Correctional Work Center, we have the report on there, as I told you. Commissioner, Superintendent Salandry had hernia surgery and he's recovering, so if you want to look at the report and for Correctional Work Center and just look at it, then when you're ready for a motion, somebody can make the motion.
Well, I'll make a motion, we accept the report as submitted.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Anybody need any more time? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We go to OSHA, and Mr. Good, and his wife's been in the hospital, and he picked her up today. He's taking care of her, so he sent his report, and also at the end they have the update on the worker compensation claim. So make sure you look at that if you haven't, and we'll do the same with this as we did on the other one. Take a motion after you've had a chance to be comfortable with it. It was a good month for accidents for a change.
Much better than what we've seen.
Yeah. I don't know if it's been a good month for Dan Good, though. Okay.
I move we accept the report.
A motion, we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Further? Done. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's good that the worker comp claims are down to 11 now. All right. Do you have a long report?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Just like every month.
Okay.
We got everybody that's
You
gonna
mind
be-
if we let Mr. King get
Yes,
through?
I
Because he'll
encourage
be
that.
short.
I encourage that. That's why we go last. No problem.
They forgot to put him on, so he's under other
Happy New
business
Year.
tonight. So if y'all hit up other business, you'll find his report.
Good evening.
Hi.
All right, so the first part of this report is our statistics, as always. As you will see in the statistics, we have increased our DUI participants significantly. In the past, I believe that we were capped at 25. We have now increased that to 36. The goal is to move that up to 50 to 60 in the next couple of months.
In drug court, we have 38 current participants, and in veterans court, we have 6 currently. We should have at least 3 or 4 more veterans in the next few weeks coming into the program.
Trey, this is probably not you, but could we pass along to make sure they scan these consistently so they're upside down on our iPad so people can't read them?
I'll be happy to give you all, I have a copy, pass to you and share. It'll be easier.
This one came out fine. It's just,
The first 3, I think, that were.
no, it's the statistics.
Yeah.
Well, I'll find another way to do that next time going around.
We can take a gander at it.
And basically, the statistics is just showing how much of the participation that they're providing, the number of drug screens each month, positive, negative, the amount of money coming in on program fees, court costs, and fines paid, their class schedules, outside meeting attendance, their drug of choice, and the like. In Veterans Court, we've just initiated in the last month, so we've only been operating for right at about a month, and we're up to 6. And just to give everyone a heads up, Veterans Court is every Wednesday at 2 o'clock in Judge McFarland's courtroom. If anyone would like to come out and take a look at that. We've also hired our Veteran Service Officer, which is also acting as our Veterans Court case manager, Dominic Grimaldi. So he's been a wealth. He has a master's degree in social work, so he's been very helpful. We're hoping that the veterans in this county can get the services that they need using through him. So with the influx of the DUI participants into the program, I've had to change staffing. So now we have 2 case managers and a therapist in both programs, DUI and drug court, and that seems to be able to heat off any need for requests for additional staffing at this time. And the last report is we had 2 interns this year. One of the interns had for her class, for her project, she needed to do a kind of a research project, and this just shows you what progress Rutherford County has made in the deterrence of recidivism rates here for drug offenders, and this is just for the drug court. The national average for drug offenders to reoffend within 3 years is 75%. In Rutherford County, for those that have successfully completed the drug court program, only 25% will reoffend. So that's a huge turnaround. And even those that go through the drug court, even though that they are terminated for whether they absconded or they just couldn't maintain sobriety or they were rearrested for whatever offense, 50% reoffend. So it's still a 25% savings from the national average. And that's kind of her report to show that. And the DUI program, our statistics for 8 years, 13% have reoffended with the DUI. So 87% are DUI free after 3 years.
Well, had all the terminated participants finished serving their time when the study was done?
No, sir. That's why some of them are not.
Okay.
Because some of them have anywhere from 1129 up to 6 years to serve. So.
Kind of hard then if they don't give it a shot.
They've tried. They just didn't.
Couldn't do it. Okay. Okay. ready, or if you have any questions of Mr. King.
Make a motion to approve the report as presented.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Mr. King, I'd like to ask one thing.
Yes, sir.
Before we, last time, we talked about money.
Yes.
Yeah. How is that looking at this moment?
I don't know yet. And the question is we are trying, with the influx of the participants coming into the program, we're hoping that those costs will offset to the number of DUI participants. And then with the money from the Veterans Court coming in, I'm hopeful that we will break even. But as far as any new grants or other opportunities at this time, there are none.
Okay. So, okay. So I'll assume in the next quarter, in March, we'll see you again?
Yes, sir.
Unless
there's
unless the dollar sign is going the other direction, right? Okay.
As long as we keep collecting money, we'll be okay.
All right. Okay. So all in favor of the motion to receive the report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. You say good luck to you.
Recovered from Christmas?
You got your bill yet? Finally, it was only my wife and I at home.
Okay, for amendment proposals tonight, we have received a grant from the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program of $3,447. We propose putting that into our jail printing line item where we're going to print inmate handbooks in Spanish. So that's what that proposal's for. The second line item is where we have sold equipment that are seized firearms and some of our department firearms to the tune of $50,000. Where you'd like to, well, the check has come in and we have those funds now. They've been received into revenue. We propose to put that $50,000 into back into the law enforcement equipment line item, so that Captain Spence can turn around and purchase some ammunition and what was the other one? Tasers. Yeah, sorry. Then the third item, we have insurance recovery of $8,825, and that one of the checks that came in was off of a vehicle at $73.25. We'd like to put that money back into that line item so we can add it to our new vehicles purchase line item. And then the last one was where we had somebody wreck into our building one day and tore up the fence, and so we got $1,500 back from that person's insurance, and so we'd like to put that back in our repair and maintenance of the building. And that's all that we have for you tonight.
Questions?
This is what, we would put it in Spanish.
New vehicles, several times during the year when there's been wrecks and all, it goes back into that. When does that wind up being used? When you buy the whole conglomeration?
All that money goes back into the vehicle line item, and then, yes, if we have enough money to buy a new vehicle, let's say if we're $7,300 short to buy another vehicle, when this money goes in it, boom, we've now got enough money to buy another car. Or maybe we had enough money for the car, but we didn't have enough money for the equipment, so now, boom, we add this $7,000 to that line item, and now we can purchase equipment. And that's what we did last year. At the very end of the budget year, we had enough money to buy a car. We bought the car, and the car sat, and then as soon as the new budget came in, we bought the equipment for that car. So it always goes for a vehicle or equipment. Taking the old and making it into new.
All inmates get this manual?
Yes, we're always working on trying to present that. We never had that before. We just had a sheet of paper, and this was part of our TCI requirements. But now we're wanting to put it in Spanish as well.
So that one will be written in Spanish?
Yes. We have the gentleman over here at the courthouse that does the Spanish speaking for the courts. He's interpreting.
Translated into that.
Do y'all furnish someone to read it to them if they're not able to read it?
There are inmates in the pod that will read it to them.
They'll read it to them.
We don't. Unless if they ask us, we'll be glad to tell them. But we don't do an orientation
You
class.
pull out the English one when you tell
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
You
You've
know
heard,
our block.
you've heard the request for the budget amendment, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? Call the rolls, please, Becky.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Shaver?
Yes.
After that, you have our department budget report as of this morning.
Do you wanna highlight anything on the sheriff's force?
I think we're doing well on fuel this year. As long as gas prices stay down, we'll be good. We'll be good on that.
Well, maybe they can start eating.
Yeah. Yeah. As we've said all along, food's going to become an issue. We are now down to, on the jail side, roughly 30% on food and food prep supplies. So that's going to become an issue here sooner or later. I'm looking to see if I can come up with some funds available somewhere, but not having a lot of luck as of yet. But as we get further down the line, it should get better.
But
We are ahead of the curve on utilities, which is nice. We get another. I think the fair weather's kind of over for now, so. we'll see.
Would fuel be one, Joe, you could be able to pull from down the road? I mean, obviously you're not gonna know now, but.
You never know, but yeah.
We've done that in the past. We've moved
Yeah.
fuel money over for food money.
Right.
In the past. But if you remember too, we cut, how much did we cut off
It
top
was-
of it? On fuel? Was it $70,000 we cut off of fuel over last year's budget?
Yeah.
So, you know. But luckily gas prices went down.
is there anything else on the sheriff's side that's out of whack? We took, or on the jail side? It looks like
I think most of
the
the
things
items
are
trending like
holding
they
in
should
on the
be.
sheriff's side and the other one also. That's
Yes,
what I was
sir.
wondering. Okay. So it wasn't the other, it wasn't the only one.
But I wanted to tell you, if you will set your iPad down flat on the table and then rotate it and leave it on the table, you can read whatever. It won't spin.
It won't spin on
Or
There you go.
just take off auto rotation.
Yeah, or take off on the rotation.
If you can find it.
I'm going to sit looking at figures.
You know, instead of going across, you go down. It's an SSI collection.
Social Security.
Oh,
Sorry. Didn't know he was asking. Sorry.
It's okay, you know.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
That's right. It's a group discussion. Janet sent me a card. We're supposed to send a file. Or did she scan? She scanned it. I'll change that. Next time it'll be called. It'll be a file.
If you look at the report, we'll entertain a motion on the report.
Make a motion to approve the report as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries.
I'll let him continue.
You gonna stay around with us?
You want to?
Yeah, we might need to ask you a question in about an hour.
It might take that long. All right, first we'll have Major Golf. We forgot him last month, so I told him he could go first this
Good evening.
Yeah, he's gonna lay and sleep on that thing.
No, he'll wait up there.
There are currently 27,919 active criminal warrants. There were 864 criminal warrants served last month. And civil process, there were 1,528 new warrants, and we served 1,543. The criminal warrants transported a total of 6,231 miles. This includes 3,204 miles transporting from other counties within the state of Tennessee. A total of 21 inmates were picked up and transported from other counties, and we had 4 extraditions completed.
How many do we have going out?
People come.
We're getting them in from ours that committed the
I
crimes
don't know if
here.
we honestly keep up with who all's going out on this. We can try to.
It was just a curiosity thing. We get them from.
Yes, we're always shipping them out. Golf can tell you, because we've been so short-handed, he's been doing a lot of our in-state extradition type stuff, and he's been back and forth between Washington County and Memphis. For some reason, Washington County and Shelby County, there's something, well, we know what's going on with Shelby County, but Washington County, we haven't really put our finger on it yet, but there's something with Washington County and Rutherford County. Yeah. So we're traveling all over the place, and I think Golf went to Shelby County last week and to Washington County last week.
In one day, we had one going to pick up in Tipton County, and then that same day we had one to pick up in Washington County. And then before we even got those en route, we had one to come in from Moore County.
What it is, Washington County is where the National Storytelling Museum is, and I'm sure all these guys are going there.
Yes, that's it. You figured it out.
Well, the first part of that was the truth. It is.
Okay.
So, other than that, thank you. Next, I'm going to get Deputy Chief up here, Keith Lowry. I introduced him to Budget and Finance the other day, but formally introduced Keith Lowry, Deputy Chief. I'll let him go over this.
The other part that you see on the front of this, good evening, by the way. The other part of this I wanted to read to you guys, and it's simply just something that we were looking at. And after conferring with Lieutenant Lance and Sheriff John Frost, other people, we're looking at some issues. So that's what I put in here. John, you coming up?
Yeah.
And that's it. I would like to address the current and continuing issues. This has been something that was going on even when I was here before the Sheriff's Department, and that they were trying to address. And these continuing issues with SOMS, the public safety software that's in use in the Sheriff's Office. And we have strived to maintain an aging and outdated software that exhibits various inconsistencies and erroneous behavior on a daily basis, and our dependence on this database is high. However, our confidence in the accuracy of the product is incredibly low. What we get out of it is highly questionable, and that's just putting it nicely. The lack of trust and the validity of the data that's retrieved from this platform is actually creating more work for the folks that are dealing with it to physically verify the return of information that we've requested from it. The input of data into SOMS is generally unencumbered. It's easy to put information into it. Yet the query of that same data at a later date, it can and often does result in accurate reports on the files and records and the warrants that we pull back out of it. I'll defer to Lieutenant Lance, and she can explain to some of those situations in just a few minutes. She's been cataloging and tracking the issues with the failing database, and on occasion, only human intervention on that department with their oversight has prevented the release of information that could have been potentially dangerous and created liability for us. The consideration of possible litigation due to the possible or potential release of a wanted individual, person on the side of the road that's let go because, for instance, we don't have that warrant actually showing up properly in the system, or a subject who'd already been processed on a warrant that had not cleared from the system having been reprocessed and on arrest. So that's another concern. It's very good consideration. Great consideration. We're constantly dealing with inquiries for records and warrants from other agencies, for instance, Laverne, Murfreesboro, so on, and Smyrna. And that requires even more time to verify that once you look it up electronically, you still have to go, when we retrieve it, before we can assure them that the actual warrant exists, we have to physically lay hands on that warrant. And then, that's something we do before the arrest happens anyway, but even on a record lookup, we've got to verify that it's true. The accuracy of the reports and the demographics of a booking record are in question as well, because we do know that there have been, we'll say, images within booking records getting switched and within the database. It does have some interesting anomalies happening within the database.
An RMS for those people listening.
Records management system. And so we were going to ask for that out of undesignated December this month, and then hopefully start that process. And then with the budget coming up this coming year, then we would ask for the JMS in our budget. And so therefore, in the next year, we would be done CAD, RMS, and jail management system. That's what JMS stands for. The reason why I'm letting you know is we've had numerous things even happen as of late, and we have the potential, and it has, frankly, it's happened probably a couple times. We know that, guilty people have walked away because, of checking out our warrants and all that, and it shows that there's no warrant. They walk out the door, and then the next day somebody looks something up, and boom, all of a sudden there's a warrant for them that's a few months old, but we didn't know it at the time. But you've also had innocent people that we've held and saying that we had something and we didn't have something. So this is a huge problem. I've been slowly talking it about, and with y'all individually, we talked about it on the radio, but we've had more issues come up, and we've got to do something. We are mission critical, and if something happened right now, she's trying to do an audit on all of our current warrants, and the numbers are actually about 1,000 less than what we normally have, because we've had a bunch that we can relieve. But doing this audit that we need to do every so often, we're afraid that it could crash the system. But we've got to do it. But if it crashes the system, we're dead in the water. If you call us, we're going back to pencil and paper, and man hours and overtime hours are going to be out the roof. So it's a tool, but it's a tool that's now hindering us. We cannot effectively run the operation at the sheriff's office with what we currently have. This system was created before AOL version 1.0. We're actually running it through a computer that's running through a computer that's running through a computer, because the software is not capable to run with Microsoft Windows 7.
Software is not 64-bit compliant, and that's unfortunately what they're trying to make the standard now. Now, 32-bit still exists, but we can't upgrade it any more than what it is. It's running, it's coded through Visual Basic 6, which is not available anymore, if you know anything about software. So, yeah.
We got two that I know that know, or three that know.
Just to answer on the CAD, a week ago Thursday, John Frost, myself, Deputy the Mayor, and Steve Smith met to discuss the permissible expenditures on the as far as what 911 could provide. And there are state mandates through TECB that say this can or cannot be used based on how the dispatch function works. And basically we were able to do that. And then the following Monday, a Monday week ago, John and I had a conference call with TriTech to let them know that we wanted definitions. There were a lot of things that we discussed that we wanted more definition on. And we had some questions over. I think everything that we questioned had to be cut out, I believe, sir. And so we came up with another number. I hope that email went out to you today, sir. Unfortunately, I apologize. It was supposed to have gone out last week, but my email crashed and it didn't leave the building. So, but we cut a significant amount of that out, but 911 will still be able to fund a large portion of it.
And that's the CAD.
Just CAD.
CAD,
Just the
right.
CAD. Just the CAD.
CAD.
No, RMS and JMS is going to have to be solely
It
funded.
all eventually has to integrate together.
Yes.
For 911, the way that the Director Smith said, if it comes through the 911 pipe and it has to do with the training of the use of that portion of it, or as it's disseminated to the units beyond that, as it originates from the 911 pipe, they can pay for that. Other parts of that, whether it be NCIC and other aspects of it, they can't pay for. But they can just carve those pieces out instead of totally negating it. They can just cut those modules out.
Do y'all have any other questions for Lieutenant Lance?
But you're not alone, are you? I mean,
No,
county
not with
needs
software. The county's software everywhere is so antiquated. I mean, it's not just me. But I beat our drum, not everybody else's drum. Tommy? Major Thompson, give the jail report. I can tell you that the numbers are down in the jail. As of this morning, we had 4 people sleeping on the floor, 4 males and 1 female. We actually did not have any females there for a couple of weeks, or for about a week or so. But we're doing pretty good numbers-wise. If you remember 2 months ago, I had over 75 people sleeping on the floor. So
Is that due from the judge's order?
the judge's order released approximately 13 or 14. The judges have changed the way that they're doing the 10-day rule. And I think that helped quite a bit, because if they wouldn't have changed the way that they were doing some things, and then with the holiday season, let me say that as well, we would have probably released about 75 that day. But because of the holidays and the way that some things have been changed, and the way we're doing some things, we were only released 14 that day, approximately 14.
The judges have done a great job, the general session judges. They got on top of this a few months ago when we were really at critical mass and really looking at ways they could relieve the pressure. Went through, we sat in their conference room with them, and they went through every prisoner, every sentence prisoner, a misdemeanor, and talked about whether they could shorten their sentence. I mean, there's all kind of things. They're just doing a great job for us there. Got a lot of papers here. I'll explain them. We'll go through them pretty quickly because I know we got some other folks. The first one is today's population analysis. Okay, and that shows when I did this at 3:22 this afternoon, 896 inmates in the building. You can go back and look at that. That shows the breakdown. You go to the next page. This is October. That shows the intakes and the releases in October. If you look down at the bottom of the second and third columns. So we pretty much treaded water in October, as you can see. And these intakes could be new arrests. They could be people we picked up from other institutions on court orders. They could be people coming in to do sentences. The releases the same way. They could be finishing their sentence. They could be making bond. There's all kind of things they could be released for. Going to other organizations like somebody mentioned earlier. And then it shows you the average over here and the day of the week. Go to the next one, that's November. You can see in November we started releasing a significant number more than we took in, about 60 something more in November there. You look at the bottom of the columns. And then December is the next page. And we're still about 60 more releases than intakes in December. So that's pretty significant. That dropped us well over 100 inmates, 150 probably in the last couple of months. If you look at the averages there. So y'all can go back and look at that when you get time. If you go to the next page, it's called cross-trainer stats, and I had to print this a long way. Sorry about that. At least it's not on your iPad. You can spin it around. A cross-trainer is a detention officer, who's a person that works in the jail that we have given extra training to. They carry guns, and we use them to transport prisoners. Sometimes we use them to help our transport people, take them to and from court. Sometimes we use them to take prisoners to the hospital. Sometimes we even we use them to help our patrol officers or our transport officers, or sometimes even our warrant officers on longer trips. We don't send them on longer trips by themselves. So this shows their activity. It has hours. hospital duty, emergency committals. Of course, as you know, sheriffs around the state are tasked with the job of taking people, commitments to mental institutions. We have to transport them. So if they're in the jail, our cross trainers will take them. We don't generally send them by themselves if they're going to Memphis or Chattanooga or someplace like that. But that shows you the stats there and the hours. And now what happens is when we have to send a cross trainer out, we have to pull that officer off the line. So they would have another duty in the jail. We pull them off the line, and we just had one go a few minutes ago. I just got an email about it. Somebody's on the way right now. Pull them off the line and send them to guard that prisoner. And then if that prisoner is admitted into the hospital, then we'll have to set up shifts. And these cross trainers are on, sometimes if they're on duty, we pull them. Sometimes if it's the middle of the night, we'll call them in. But that's where these hours come from. But that's cross trainers, and they supplement our transport force.
And we've had two in the hospital for over a week now. Luckily, working with the hospital, pardon me, we've got these two individuals side by side room-wise, because totally different type illnesses. But normally, sometimes we would have them at different spots of the hospital, so you would have two officers up there. But working with the hospital, they've allowed these two to have side by side rooms, and so we have the one officer guarding the two inmates. So, it's saving half of our manpower that we'd have to pull from the jail to go and do that.
Do you have any questions about the cross trainers?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, it saves pulling patrol officers off.
Right. And this was happening long before I got here. It's been going on for a while.
Yes, it was one of the things because when I was a patrol officer, that's one thing we all would have to do. We'd come off patrol, come out of a zone, and have to go sit with an inmate. And that's, we transferred that over to the jail as jail services.
The next pages that I'm looking at, you don't have, but basically Chief Russell stole my thunder. I was going to tell you we're at 30% on food and 30% on food prep. But, he already beat me to it.
Do you have the date?
No, I didn't calculate the date when we ran out. Last time I estimated we would run out of food on April 6th. I estimated we'd run out of food prep on May 1st. Our numbers are down a little bit, so I expect those to be extended a few more days past that.
What did you figure in the budget? Was it 925 on?
No, 1.2 million was the budget.
No, 925 on the amount of the head count per day.
158.
I think you're about right. It's about.
No, it was our.
Is it according to capacity of the jail?
Yes.
It's like 925, something like that.
It's something like that. I've got it.
If you had that amount of day, you would make.
Right. I've got it on.
But as you can see, one thing in here too, on the daily maximum inmates we've had, there's 1,069. It looks like that was the most in one day. So, when you rate something for 958 and then you have 1,069, that's definitely eating into
the counteract. It was some 800.
We made 94,000.
Yeah, actually.
I'm sorry. We made 94,449 meals in October, 89,184 in November, and so far in December, well, through the 21st, we had made 58,849. So they're going down a little bit as our population goes down, which is good. Any other questions about the jail? The other division that I have is what we have called the Judicial Services Division. That's Court Security and Transport. And those are the last two sheets that you'll have in your packet there. Transport status sheet, as you can look, this shows what our transport deputies are. Now, transport deputies are post-certified officers. They're full officers with cars and guns and vests and the whole bit. And their job is to take prisoners to and from court. Their job is to take prisoners to and from medical appointments. Their job is to pick up prisoners in other counties. They usually don't go on extraditions in other states. The warrants folks usually do that. But our transport officers are always on the road, and they also produce the prisoners in the courtrooms as well. So when you go up to court and you see a deputy sheriff in the courtroom, that's one of our transport officers. You can see all these stats, a lot of court appearances, a lot of TDOC is Tennessee Department of Corrections, medical appointments. Unfortunately, at the jail, Dr. Rudd can't do everything he needs to do there, so we do have to take him up to his office on a regular basis, and that could be dental visits too. We do a lot of stuff in-house dental, but sometimes they have to go out. It shows the duty hours for the different courts. Of course, we're taking them to not only to the judicial building across the street, we're also taking them to juvenile court. So we've got several different things. So this shows the hours. Certainly they'll serve warrants if there's somebody that they pick up in the courtroom that's got a warrant. They will serve the warrant. That shows that activity. And then miscellaneous motorist assist. Obviously, if they're driving, don't have a prisoner, don't have to be somewhere, they help out when they need to be. So this just shows you all that. We have 8 deputy sheriffs assigned to transport, plus 1 corporal and 1 sergeant. So about 10 of them. We also have a captain who's over judicial services, and currently we have a lieutenant. All that position is going to be transferred soon away from this division
Back to patrol where it originally
to
was.
meet the needs of the agency, right? And then, so any questions about transport? All right, the last page, I'm sorry, the next page is December's transport numbers, so it's the same thing. The very last page is court security. And this is November's stats, and I'm going to get them to put a header on this. When I printed this up, I realized they don't have a header, but we'll add that for next time. But this is court security. This is what our post-certified uniformed deputy sheriffs that work the courthouses, the judicial building, and the juvenile building. This is what they do. As you can see, 23,579 people they screened in the month of November. So you multiply that by 12, you're looking between, what, 250 and 300,000 people a year we're screening in the courthouses.
Almost as many citizens as we have in the county.
Right. And keep in mind, when we get our new courthouse, it's going to be laid out a bit differently too. You know, right now it's all funneled into that one screening station. We expect to have it at least 2 for the public and 1 for the employees in the new courthouse. And so right now we've got 8 deputies, 7 deputies, 1 sergeant, 1 corporal assigned to court security. So if you have 2 over at juvenile, that means that gives us 5 plus the managers over at the big courthouse.
I know in the new courthouse we're going to rely a lot on technology, but what do you foresee? It's a couple of years down the road, but what do you foresee in additional manpower needed there?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because we have, I've been putting a lot of thought in that. I know the sheriff has too. And we're going to need more people, because it's a bigger facility. Like I said, we'll have more screening stations. There'll be a bigger perimeter to secure, if you will. Now, the technology is going to help us tremendously. There's no doubt. But I think we can set it up, and Sheriff and I haven't sat down completely and talked. We've had discussions about it. Of course, it's his call. But I think we can change some job descriptions where we can get some more bang for our bucks at the courthouse, and that would help us when it's time to fund the additional people. Because, and for instance, I would argue you might not need a fully post-certified deputy sheriff, or 4 of them, 5 of them to run the screening stations, when you could hire a lower paid employee or even a contractor, like a lot of counties and federal facilities use, under the supervision of a deputy sheriff. So those are kind of things we'll be bringing to your the table when the time comes.
One thing to keep in mind, this courthouse is based off of Davidson County's courthouse, just a smaller version of it. Davidson County has right now about 80 deputies that just work the courthouse. And then they have a private security that just mans the door and some other things. One thing that I've asked, and I put this on to y'all to help guide me with, is the Post Commission, Grisham, Director Grisham down there, he does courthouse analysis. The state of Tennessee will come in and they will look at the building, look at the blueprints, and they will give their recommendation on a true courthouse security plan. And they will help guide us. And I've already asked, but I asked for y'all to reach out too in asking for this recommendation, because it's going to be key of us working together. Because I can come to y'all, and y'all know it just as well as I do. I can come to you and go, we need 75 deputies, just per se. And y'all say, no, we're going to fund about 12 and you can make it work. At that point, then we're going to have issues. We're going to have a standoff and going, okay, what is a true safety analysis for the deputies and for the community as a whole in protecting this building and protecting our judges and protecting our judicial system.
And protecting the public.
Yes, well, that's
because in today's environment, public venues are becoming more and more the need for security.
And we're seeing more lawsuits of the government not protecting. That's the primary job of government, is to protect its citizens.
And what I've been telling our folks since early on in this process, when the sheriff put me on the design review committee with the PBA, I've been able to have a lot of input into this building. We're going to have to totally change the way we do business here. And it's just what we see over here is going to be different when we get to the new building. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be safer. It's going to be better for everybody. We just got to realize we're going to have to do it differently. And we went up to the Davidson County Courthouse and saw it. I've seen a lot of courthouses over my previous career as well, and we can do this, and we can do it right. This is our chance to do it right. And we've got a good opportunity. We've got 2.5 years to get it done.
Now's the time to think
Now's the time to
We need to start thinking about this in advance, because whatever training we're going to have to train these guys, and or what direction we go in. If we go with certified, post-certified, or if we go with, like we do, detention officers and train them. But there's got to be training time. If we have half and half, well then we're going to look naturally at our current patrol guys and go, okay guys, anybody want to go to the courthouse? Well, let's say that we come, just for easy numbers, let's say 20. We come up and 10 guys from patrol say, hey, we want to go. Well, then we might move those guys out, but then we still got to backfill now patrol. And that takes, up to 24, well, actually 26 weeks now, because the police academy now has gone from 10 weeks to 12 weeks, right? Yes, starting January 1. So, you've got 6 months just to train somebody before you can cut them loose. So we've got to start thinking about that, and that's one thing I wanted to bring up tonight, is I need y'all's help, wisdom, and guidance in this, because this building's coming now. You've already voted for that, but now we've got to staff it and protect it. And that's where I need guidance from y'all. And of course, we also, Major Thompson's gonna be bringing his budget forward here pretty soon. And we know that for the jail, probably gonna be asking for about 43 deputies just for the jail. And that's to properly staff the jail. And there'll be more to come on that. And then we know we're gonna be asking for more for patrol officers. We asked for 10 last year. We got down to the cutting, and it got down to about 5, and then that got cut. You've heard the other departments tonight tell you that the population's growing, that that they're out calling outside of zones. You're going to hear that again. More out of zone calls, more calls in general, but we haven't added any more staff except for SROs. And 1 or 2 here and there, and we've got to, as a county, again, keeping our public safe is our #1 job. So it's government's #1 responsibility to its citizens. So, okay.
Do you have any more questions? Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you. Detectives. Got that Haley's here for General Detective and Narcotics tonight.
I didn't bring y'all a bunch of paperwork, I'm sorry. Just trying to save a little money. What I'm going to speak about is the CID stats, which is going to be Criminal Investigations Division, and also the narcotics stats and the sex registry. I was asked to come in today and speak about just where we are on our stats as of right now in November. So on the assigned cases to our detectives right now, we have a total of 251 that was assigned in November, and out of them we had 16 arrests. The total of cases assigned in CID in 2015 was thus far 3,404. November property that's been recovered is 19,945. The year total is 400,840. The miles driven by our detectives for this month is 21,306, and for the year it's 243,293. For narcotics stats, for this month they've made 6 felony arrests, and for the year they have a total of 150. They've seized 2 weapons this month, which makes a total of 50 for the year. And the money seized is $5,582 for the month of November, which makes the total $220,355. The vehicle seized this month was 1, and that makes a total of 49 for the year. Search warrants that were executed for the month of November is 2, and the year total is 82. Estimated street value of narcotics seized this month was $23,000, and for the year in total was $2.1 million. If you ever go in our narcotics evidence room, you'll believe it. The sex registry, we're also in CID over the sex offender registry. For this month of December, I went ahead and went with December because we had a quarterly done. They registered 37 sex offenders for this month. 3 annual sex offenders reported in December, so that makes a total of 40. And the total number of sex offenders that report to us throughout the year is 79. So, and the sex offender registry, they're responsible for updating the website, verifying employment, verifying addresses, and checking into any new reported criminal activity.
And that's for the unincorporated areas of the county. That's not for the city of Murfreesboro.
Smyrna, they have their own people.
You're saying that the sex offenders is county, it doesn't include city that report?
Correct.
It's like you saw some of the.
And we're also responsible for the ones that are in the jail too.
Yeah.
So. Sound good?
Any questions?
Any questions?
Thanks for saving us money.
No problem. Thanks for
I'll see y'all
this
next
year.
Very much appreciated.
Next is patrol.
When you see my report package, you'll see I didn't say anything.
You made up. He made up.
Take one and pass it on, please. How's everybody doing this evening?
We were better with that over
I'll wait for everybody to get the package. Let me just speak about what the sheriff said earlier about manning. I'm going to ask for manning, obviously, for people when it comes time to it again. EMA, fire, they all ask. Their calls have increased. Well, guess who goes to those calls with them? Us. Guess who stays there just as long, if not longer? Us. So we got the same amount of hours, the same amount of reasons. And Commissioner Reed, you were speaking earlier about training hours. We have a horrendous amount of training hours, as you well know because you went through the thing. If you multiply 40 training hours per person in the sheriff's office as a minimum, okay, that's a whole lot of training hours. That's not even counting your regular quarterly weapons training and all that stuff we do. So you will be asking. On the top here, I got October and November stats, the normal stats that we give you, kind of show what we do, total miles we drive. It tends to stay a little bit the same on some things.
Tell them well, because people in TV land don't know.
All right, in October, we drove 130,076 miles. November's 132,440 miles. That's just for patrol. It's not the whole department. Misdemeanor citations, we wrote 86 in October and 84 in November. Warning citations, we wrote 274 in October, 261 in November. Verbal warnings is 268 in October and 248 in November. Deputy generated arrests in October 101, in November 83. That would include stuff like your DUIs that they see as you're driving along, that kind of stuff. Tigers reports, totals for October were 541 that patrol took. In November it was 472. The accidents that we actually worked in October were 144, and in November 138. And the next category is ambulance assists. 372 times that we assisted the ambulance in October, and 288 times in November. And this one stays constant, out of zone calls, and everybody knows what that means. We take one guy out of the zone to back up somebody else or handle a call because that zone is busy. It's 830 times in October, 841 times in November. The big alarm calls, 178 in October, 175 in November. And out of those, one was founded.
And we're gonna get into that.
We're getting that in a minute.
If we hold there, we'll talk about that at the very end.
And of course, the good old emergency committals, 102 in October and 94 in November.
I want to, you have over here in your warning citations and your verbal warnings, I think it's important to mention your numbers there are pretty close to 300 in each one of them, your warnings. And then, but when you get up here in your misdemeanor citations, you're looking at 84 and 86. I think that's something to mention. You know, everybody sees your cars, they're sitting there, and they say, well, there they are. They're out there trying to collect money or whatever they're trying to do for the county. I think that points out the fact that you're doing your job to stop people from what they're trying to do to enforce the law more so than trying to just write a ticket.
That's correct.
I think that's something that people don't understand, and that this is what these numbers point out.
That's correct. The goal of the sheriff's office, we're not there to generate money on citations. We don't do that. That's not what we're about. We're there to prevent crime, prevent traffic violations as much as possible, and we do that by being visible. Of course, that goes back to you need more people, you can be more visible and prevent that more. And then we believe when we stop them, you know, a warning type citation will do a lot better than an actual citation. Don't get me wrong, if you deserve a citation, you're going to get one. You know? But as these numbers show, generally, we'll let you get away with either a written warning, and the written warning, the difference between a verbal warning and a written warning is you just want to have a little bit more of an impact. Here's something in writing versus, you know, don't do that.
It's sort of like when I was growing up as a kid, my daddy could look at me, that would take care of it, because I knew it was sort of like the misdemeanor citation there. I didn't want that, and I know what the difference would be.
And let me say this too about misdemeanor citations. A lot of people think that money comes back into the general fund. The majority of when we write a ticket, it goes to the state of Tennessee. It does not come to the county. When it goes to General Sessions Court for speeding or for something else, a lot of those fines and fees and stuff go to the state of Tennessee. It never comes back to the general fund. And I've actually tasked Captain Spence with Blount County. They actually created a county ordinance that say, and they kind of changed up some things to where they started routing some of those funds back into the county. And we're looking at that right now and trying to figure out what we want to do. But right now, I just want everyone to know that those tickets and stuff, that money goes to the state of Tennessee.
The next two pages, they're not official requests yet. We're just letting you know, and you'll get the official letter next month. Dr. Williams, one of the veterinarians, donated a canine first aid pack to every single canine in the department. He didn't do it just for Rutherford County, he did it in the city of Smyrna, he did it in the city of Murfreesboro and all those, so just letting you know that's coming in. It costs about $125 per package, from my understanding.
Out of his pocket.
out of his pocket.
This was his donation. He wanted to do this.
And then
Who was it?
Dr. Williams.
Larry Williams.
He does all of our canine stuff. All of our animal stuff.
And then overall Creek School, they donated like a box bag or whatever you want to call it with all these things in it, just for our canines. You know, it's just various things, tennis balls and frisbees and homemade treats and stuff like that. Just want to let you know in advance you'll be getting those letters next month. The next page is what Commissioner Shaver has already went straight to, is the law that deals with the charging for alarms. Okay. Now, after getting some advice from some legal attorneys and stuff, and after reading it myself, at the very end, okay, after all this other stuff that's in here, it says there's nothing in this part, and some of this law, shall be construed to prohibit counties or municipalities from enacting and imposing penalties for false alarms, provided that the penalties shall not exceed $50 for each false alarm. The thing that it alluded to before that, the 1991 thing, is back before 1991, the sheriff's office or the county could actually run like an alarm company themselves. And you can't do that unless you enacted it before 1991. So in other words, we can't run an alarm service type deal. We can't, or when I say we, I'm talking about the county itself, according to this law. Can't charge for actual alarms, but you can come up and act or enact or impose penalties. It's going to take some doing, because that's going to take some manpower. It's going to take some people. It's going to take a lot more research to come up with how that's going to work. If that's something y'all choose to do.
What you showed earlier, there were 175 and 174 in 2 months' time, and one of them was found. That's about 0.03% actually was a founded alarm.
Right, and next month I'll give you the total
yearly,
for the
yeah.
year.
Well,
It'll be a lot.
Yeah, and you know, and that's pretty time consuming heading out there too. Even if it gets canceled on the way and all this stuff.
Yeah, and that's actually where the next statistic is kind of going on different things. But I put this copy on here for y'all to take a look at, research, get your own, talk to your own people and try to figure that out. This is the law. This is what was said to me by CPAS.
That was all
20 years ago too.
And that was all monthly, right? The numbers you presented. So you're talking $8,700 a month.
Sure.
That you could recoup in theory if
I kinda
that
have
was the maximum. I mean, that's
I do kinda
$100,000
have
a
the
year.
years.
That's a lot of
That's
money.
what I was fixing to say. I can tell you last year,
102,000, I calculated.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. I mean, 10-year window, that's $1 million that you would be getting just off recoup fines. And to Commissioner Schaefer's point, with less than 1% actually being legitimate.
Yeah.
last year we had 8 founded alarms. We had 1,786 false alarms.
How many? 17?
1,786. Now I can tell you so far, November up to November of this year, we've had 9 founded alarms. Now I can sit here with a calculator like Lisa. If you give me a few minutes, and I could add up to November. But let's say 1,786 last year with only 8 founded.
Right.
Now
The numbers are going to be close.
Yeah,
it's
close to
it, if not more.
Yeah, it's almost 90 grand that could be collected if that $50 was a fine.
Now, I'll tell you, my recommendation to y'all is if y'all want to go forward or whatever the wisdom of the commission is y'all send this to the county attorney, let him draft a resolution. But then my recommendation is you put this under the codes department, not the sheriff's office, not the fire department. The codes, that's kind of where the city is too, that enforce the codes and keeping up with their alarm systems, this and that. That is my recommendation to y'all. That and $1.50 get you a cup of coffee at the City Cafe, but that's where we are with this. You know, you heard Chief Farley talk about his unfounded alarms, false fire alarms, and they're rolling those big trucks and all that. And you think about the safety of the citizens when you're running emergency traffic. When you turn that lights and sirens on that vehicle, you have now put every single person that you come in contact with at risk. You know, there's a huge liability there.
There are actually, I mean, EMS gets dispatched on
Yes.
false medical alarms. So, you know, we're talking
We
about
go to those
fire,
too.
EMS, and law enforcement all total. So the stats that they give are not totally
Right. It could be a
complete.
third of what.
Right, although they may be majority of it, because since you dispatch for
We do go to
fire
medical alarms
and so
fire.
on, so that would include, but, yeah. And we should be somewhat compassionate, you know,
Yeah, but
give
I-
people
You know, you can give them a break.
break to start with, but if it's.
I think the city gives them like
repetitive,
two. I think the city gives them 2 a
They
year or something like
give
that.
them two, I believe it's on the third one, they send them a piece of paper saying.
It's those people who are
Yeah, all
habitual
those
and do
overnight
nothing about it.
Well, it's Chief, I think Chief Farley told you earlier, there was some guy, the 5th fire alarm, and he finally
Yeah,
told them to turn it on test and
Yeah,
get
test
the,
it.
you know, so I mean, you have those. I mean, we have incidents like this all the time.
People need to be responsible also for
Yes.
what they have.
So I believe I heard you say if they went twice and they didn't pay, they didn't go anymore.
That's how the city does it.
All right.
That's
Would
what I
that
was
be
told,
something
like-
you
That's
would-
something, the wisdom of the commission would come up with those guidelines. That's why I'm saying,
Well, it would have to be if you were gonna charge them a $50 fine and, okay, say you charge me $50, I'm not gonna pay you. What you gonna do, sue me? No. You gonna put me in jail and feed me? No. You don't have an option. Just don't go no more.
Right, and some people will pay because they want you to come to the alarm. But yeah, you're gonna get what you're saying. You're gonna run into
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
the city runs into it all the time. They
More
have
than
people,
not.
You know, that they just take off of their response. We just won't respond until you settle this up.
Well, it might end up like the boy that cried wolf.
Exactly.
It might be the wolf on that next time, and then what happens?
It's 1 out of 170, one.
Well, last time, 7.
One wolf.
Yeah, but I don't.
The other one was 0 out of.
Actually,
8 out of.
You know, the problem.
I had one in my door 2 weeks ago.
One of the problems is, this statistic definitely goes up when we have storms. You know, when we have storms, these alarms go off.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the problem. Anyway, continuing on, the next couple of pages deal with our response times and the type of calls. And I got them, we have them broken down into priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3 calls. So, for example, okay, our total average time for priority 1 calls is, if you look, it's on the second page, you look down at the bottom, it's 10 minutes and 84 seconds. And interesting enough, our priority 2 calls are, is from time dispatch to time arrival is 12 minutes and 74 seconds. Which, that don't make any sense, that has there, but anyway, 12 minutes. 13 minutes. And then priority 3 is 13 minutes itself. So it kind of goes like it should. But priority 1 calls, you know, things like your accidents, your hit and runs, your alarm holdups, and there's your alarm. It's a priority, you know, hold up alarm. It could be a false alarm, but it's a priority 1 call. And what this paper shows you is how much time you spent from receive to dispatch, dispatch to arrival, arrival to completed. In other words, I go there, let's take an example here. Accident, hit and run, or just a regular accident, injury, okay? Now it takes me, let's say, 9 minutes from dispatch to arrival to get there.
Do you think the new CAD system will help out at all?
In response to actually getting the proper information?
In terms of the times, you know, maybe cut down response times?
Well, it could be because the CAT system right now is corrupted, so some of these response times probably are.
Just one.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get a more accurate.
Navigation and other things is going to help a great deal. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we've had before. For a little while, we had a thing where it would see the car moving around the county, and you could figure out where the call was. Dispatch could, and they could send the closest call or car to that call. Where right now you just send the zone car. Now that zone car might be at 31A at the county line, and it might be up here, here towards Compton Road or something, and they send them there.
The point I was trying to make is not so much how fast we get there, is how much time we spend there. Okay. You take, for example, Assault. Just jump down here to Assault. It's an equal kind of number. It doesn't take that long. We spend an average from the time we get there till I say, okay, I'm 10:08. I'm done with this incident. 75 minutes. That's not counting. Now I got to go write the report. You understand what I'm saying?
Or you gotta book them in.
I spent, this is how much time I spent on scene. Now I gotta go sit somewhere, which is usually what the guys are doing when you see them on the side of the road. They're writing their reports. And depending on, the national average to write a report, complete things, it's like 45 minutes. It depends on the report. The point I'm trying to make is we spend a lot of time on different things, which is necessary. My point being is we're gonna need more people because it kind of spreads that out of it, because now I gotta send somebody out of zone to handle it. Did that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. But if y'all study this, look at it, you got any questions, feel free to call me. Feel free to call me. I'll answer any question. I'll come out and talk to you. That's not a problem. We'll go through it together. But this kind of shows what we do, how fast we get there, what we do when we get there, how long it takes to get there, and how long we spend at the scene. And that was the purpose of to give you this, so I'll take it home and look at it.
Thank you. I've got one other thing I want to give y'all. I passed this out once before.
We forgot the crime map.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Never mind.
Those
Got
are
a couple more things, sorry.
Your entry, in your zone, that was the crime map statistics. The amount, we had one arson. Where's that arson at? One of the zones that arson in it. Zone 6, zone 9, I'm sorry, zone 9 had arson. We had 45 larcenies, 3 forcible rapes, 19 burglaries to autos, 19 burglaries, 18 vandalisms, and 5 vehicle thefts in your zones out there.
Hopefully next month, one, we'll have this on your PowerPoint, and 2, I don't know if the TV channel can zoom in on that, but hopefully we'll have it to where when we talk about the crime map, it'll be up on the TV.
We can give them a copy of it.
Yeah. Look at Zone 7. It's a clean Zone 7.
Yes.
We take care of our own.
It's called the Constitution. Like the sheriff said, the goal is the next month to actually have a slide so you can see it. And we can break it down in many different ways. We can put it just narcotics type stuff. We can do an entire, for the year, which you probably don't want to see. It'll be covered up with spots. Or just your individual zones.
We can do it in layers too.
Yeah, we can do it in layers. So there's many different options, better than just Captain Spence standing up here. holding
At a later date, we would like to be able to provide this electronically via web access. And that way you could just go in live and you could plug in your zone and it would populate all the crime stats for your zone.
Is that on our SharePoint site? Right, that would be a good starting point to put it on the SharePoint site as well.
November.
This is just November, yes, sir.
That's why, the other night at the commission meeting, I sent Captain Spence up here with your district. And hopefully, we'll, at the end of the year, we'll do one for your district to show the crime for the entire year, which will be pretty heavy. And then hopefully also by next month, we'll have it in place where we can show you narcotics and all the stuff that they do, which will be mainly in Zone 5, Zone 10, and Zone 11. We do a lot of stuff really narcotics wise in those zones. So those commissioners that are Smyrna, Laverne, and Murfreesboro commissioners that say that by looking at the map that we don't do much in their zones, that we do a lot more than what you think about. If we ever put civil and criminal warrants on there, that map would just be eat up, especially with those particular 3 zones, 5, 10, and 11, because that's where we do most of our activity with civil, criminal, and narcotics. They work those zones mainly. So,
Any more questions for Patrol? Like I said, y'all call me if you got any questions about this when you read this. Just give me a call.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
you'll take one, pass it, you'll take them and pass them that way. A couple of years ago, I passed this out to the commission, and over the next few months, I'm gonna pass out several different things to y'all when it comes to the jail. I pass this out just for your leisurely reading whenever you get a chance, but it's just what's entitled, what a commissioner needs to know about their jail.
Who wrote it?
Ellen Beck.
Dr. Allen
Yes.
Beck.
So, if you want to take that home, read it, get back with me. I'll be glad to answer it with you. I'll be glad to come out to your store. I'll be glad to come out to your home and sit down and talk to you about this. But, the biggest responsibility we have in county government is our jail. It's a bigger responsibility than anything else we do have in the county. I just want to pass this out and give it to you. I've got several more things to go over the next few months, but each time I will have something else to present to you about the jail. Also, I'd like to set up the tour of the jail for this committee. I have requested every year for y'all to come out and inspect the jail. It's something that wasn't done previously. I want you to inspect the jail. I want you to come see it, and know what we're doing, why we're doing it, what maintenance we're doing to it. If you see something that we need to do more of, that way when we come up here and ask for money. In a lot of counties, the sheriff's office doesn't have a maintenance line item. That falls back on county maintenance. Y'all have chosen to put a maintenance line item in my budget for me to handle. So I want y'all to know why, when, what, and how, what we do with it, and why we do it. So if you could maybe come up with some dates, maybe March is what I'm thinking, but unless you got something better.
It may be that, 3 of us come one time and 4 of us come at another time because.
But an hour, really and truly, I know y'all want to do it an hour, but an hour's not long enough.
Yeah.
It's best to go on a Sunday afternoon and get the full view.
Yeah.
What night we can see it all.
Those are Tuesday nights now. Beans and cornbread is on Tuesday nights. I promise. I think it's the best meal we serve of the week.
Best cornbread.
Yes.
Got to be better.
I'm saying I've been in jail.
You visited to see our kitchen. Yes.
There's something we didn't know about.
No. But any other questions for me while you have me? Thank you. Thank you for your time. Happy New Year. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas.
Are we gonna talk about the alarms, or?
Y'all just did.
It's in that sheet, those 2 sheets.
I can get him back here if you got some more stuff you'd like to talk about.
Steve was gonna say something about.
Oh no, that's the research. Talked to Commissioner Reed last month. I called 20 alarm companies that we deal with, and their procedures are: they call the homeowner. If they can't reach the homeowner, they call their point of contact, and then that's when they call us. So it's not like they're calling us right off the bat. They're trying to reach.
Sounds like they have a bad database then.
Well, they're just trying to reach key holder, and they can't reach them. They have to call us to respond.
The reason I knew this, I'm one of those that accidentally sets mine off. Not now, because I put big signs on all my doors, says check alarm before I ever open it. But I was wondering about this, how quick do they respond to the police or whatever? I do know that the one that I have, I timed them the last time within a minute. They had called me and wanted to know if something was wrong, and I told them right quick. They said no, I had accidentally set the alarm off. And So they said, well, we'll not make that call. So I called them back, sat down and discussed it with them, and then they told me right quick, said, no, we do not call the police until we have made that contact with you. And then that told me right quick that it doesn't automatically go out as we think here. So there is a lot of things happen between that call that the sheriff's office gets from the time that alarm goes off. Now, the fire is different. The fire goes out instantly.
There are stipulations with alarms though.
Yeah.
If you get a silent duress alarm,
Right.
any of the higher alert alarms, they will call the police automatically.
Right, I have a what's called a panic button. And if I hit that panic button, it's gone just like that, because the first time I ever got that panic button, I didn't realize it, and it's a silent alarm.
Right.
Until all of a sudden I get a call on my phone telling me that did I set off that panic alarm? And I said, not that I know of. I said, well, you might all tell that officer standing outside your door. And when I looked out, I thought, man, I've really done it, because I mean, he was armed to the hilt and looking at me like, and he made me come out of the house to make sure there wasn't anything happening. But you know, you talk about the alarms and people that have them. The one I have is very important to me, and I think the people out there. But what we're talking about here, I think this is something we really need to discuss very importantly, because it is costing us. It's taking up time of our law enforcement as well as our fire department. We need to go further into this and what we have to do. Because the other night, I had been to the doctor. I wasn't feeling all that good. Went to bed, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, I have this pretty good sized black lab that I keep in my garage. He barked and he woke me up, and I just thought he was playing at first. Went back to sleep, and all of a sudden he comes loose. But when I woke up, I heard the doorknob of my garage opening. At that time, he and I took care of the problem. That's why I said we don't call, because he and Smith & Wesson and myself took care of it, and that's a situation. But that alarm, that panic button, was also with me. So
Hopefully you did call after that.
No, I went back to sleep. I was that confident in that dog and myself, and I mean, it just really didn't bother me that much, because I think that person that was at the door after he heard all of that, I don't think he was worried anymore about coming in that house, because he was gone. And but that's I think this is something that we need to look at.
It's also, it gets back that the people that have the alarms have responsibility.
Right.
Sure, it's got to get
Absolutely.
across to them.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Captain Smith's going on and making those discussions.
Another thing I wanted to kind of throw out there, two other things, really one, is the discussion because of funding of body cameras. You know, that's a discussion we need to kind of start having. I've got a lot of questions. I know a lot of other people have questions, but you know how law enforcement is going. What direction do you all as a commission want to set, if you want to set a direction? You know, I've already kind of started setting the direction in tasers and less than lethal stuff. But all of this costs money, and all this, it takes a discussion. So I wanted to put that on the table, because you're going to see some of this in the budget. Right now, body cameras are not going to probably be in the budget, but it is something that we do have coming up that I think that we all need to discuss. But you know, it all comes into, there's a whole lot of discussion when it comes into body cameras, storage for this video footage, and you know, people's rights of privacy. So there's lots of things to talk about with this, but I do want to hear from y'all and what y'all are wanting us to look at as the sheriff's office and going forward into the future with less than lethal, with all the stuff going on in the country today, and the gearing us, helping us with a direction, but also with body cameras as well. So
between those two, body cameras and the tasers, what is your which one would be your priority?
tasers.
Tasers.
Tasers would be the first priority. And that, I've already kind of set that pattern for us. Because one, the tasers already, they have a camera in them, so when you deploy that, it has a camera in there, so it will show that. But you know, with everything going on in the country, I have a lot of questions. I'm not saying, I'm not a huge proponent of the body cameras. We already have cameras in cars. So if we're going to look at body cameras, then maybe we look at doing away with car cameras and going to a body camera. But we also have to think about the public. Let's just say John Q. Citizen wants to know what John K. Citizen's house looks like. And so I call the sheriff's office and say, hey, John K.'s doing something, y'all need to go over and check it out. Well, I, as the officer, go over and knock on the door and ask, hey, can I come in and talk to you? And John K.'s like, yeah, come on in. And we go and we sit down in the kitchen and we talk for a while and all that. Well, I get up and I leave. Well, then John Q. Citizen comes to the sheriff's office and says, Freedom of Information request. I'd like to have that video footage from that officer that went over to John K.'s house. Well, we as a government entity have to turn that over, Freedom of Information, but now John Q. can now see everything in John K.'s house. They see the full video panoramic view. Now they get the conversation and everything. And did we violate, if they didn't commit a crime or anything like that, do we violate their rights? But also we have a storage issue. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you're kind of thinking along the right lines, because the vehicular cameras are in public space.
Yes.
If you're the vehicular camera, the dash cams, as they commonly call, they're in public space. No one can expect privacy in front of a patrol car on the side of a road. That's public space. But when you get to the body cameras, then you get to a lot more intimate space. You get into, it's something that really and truly needs to be thought well through, because not only do you have the situation like that, but then you have people, you may have experienced, and other guys who are law enforcement officers sitting here, a citizen will sometimes confide in you. They'll sit down and say, okay, oh, I know this, I know that, this is information, you might want to be aware of so-and-so, and that's in a confidential manner. It may be over a cup of coffee. It may be, sitting on the side of the road, talking, or standing there with you. It may be in all kinds of circumstances, but a lot of times it may very well be inside their home or whatever. And if they knew that what they said was going to be available on camera, then you would lose all that information. So I think the whole gamut.
Well, and this also needs to be talked with our district attorney. You have
A body cam generally will capture your probable cause of a traffic stop. Right. It's setting in a location where it's not collecting, you can't see it.
Yeah.
So, for next month, I'd like y'all to decide how you want to go about down and when to the sheriff's department. If you want to go on an afternoon, I know, we got people that work here. We got some guys that are an independently wealthy cattleman over here. And that, we got another guy here that drives a school bus, so he's limited too. So let's do it. Maybe, we don't have to do it like at 5 o'clock at night, or do it right before one of these meetings.
We can break it up into two different, or we can cater to you. We work 24/7, so I'm willing to come in anytime. Another quick thing too, sorry, is the old cars patrol cars we have that we've stripped. We are going to be giving those over to the fire department and the EMS for them to practice extrication on, because in the past we have sold those cars for scrap metal. We get about $1,000 for them. Well, we can turn those over to EMS and fire. They can cut the tops off of them, cut them up, cut this and that, and then we can still pile the metal back on, still haul it off, and still get the same amount of money. But our employees, the county employees, got that training and all that. So with those cars that we do have that we've already stripped, we're going to be doing that with. The cars that we'll be taking out of service, we're still going to be doing what we freshly done here in the immediate past, is trying to sell those to other counties, because we can probably sell those to other counties for $2,000 instead of $1,000. So I wanted to just let y'all know about that as well. Other than that, Happy New Year, and thank y'all, gentlemen, for your time.
Just for the committee, Friday, January the 8th, we're going to have our Criminal Justice Coordinating Council meeting at 12 o'clock here. We have Sheriff Hall coming, from Davidson County. He's going to talk to us about his transition from jail to community project and the impact, positive impact it's had on Nashville, Davidson County for our edification.
So if you are free, it'd be a good one to come to, because
If you're going to
judges,
come,
sheriff.
please let me know.
Send us an email.
Okay.
12,
12 noon.
12, no.
12 noon here.
January 8th.
January 8th.
It's a Friday. Okay. Anything else to come before the committee? We're adjourned.